And welcome back, and it is the 13th of May, higher plus 5 a day. And let's go straight to the first one. Right, what do we have? So James has solved the equation x squared plus ax plus b. I like this one because they haven't put the b and the c there. They've called it a and b, so slightly different, so just be careful. His solutions are and this, so obviously the point is that this is the one is the negative of the other, so in other words, we've got a negative and positive here. And then it says find a and b. I think you just have to write it in quadratic form, don't you? So if I take this equation and if I do the quadratic formula, it's going to be minus, this is where it gets difficult. So it's minus b plus minus b squared, etc. But my b here is an a, so it's going to be minus a plus minus b squared, which is now a squared, minus 4 times 1 times b. All of that is divided by 2 times a, which is 1, so it's just divided by 2. Well, let's tidy this up a little bit. So that tells me, actually, you know what, I can't really tidy it up that much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that's the same as minus a over 2 plus minus the square root of a squared minus 4b. This is a good question, over 2. Now, basically, let's compare the thing without the surd. So if we compare this to this, it must be the case that minus a over 2 is equal to minus 3. Multiply both sides by minus 2, and therefore it must be true that a is equal to 6. So far, so good. Arguably, I've done the easy bit. Next bit, I then need to put this into the other part. So I know that this is equal to this, including the 2. So now I've got to be careful. So let's write this out. So I've got the square root of a squared, which I now know is 36, minus, can't read my writing, minus 4 times b, over 2 is equal to the square root of 17. Then I'm going to square both sides. Now this is where you need to be careful. So that's the same as 36 minus 4b over not 2 but over 4, because I've squared both sides, is equal to 17. Okay, let's carry on. Multiply both sides by 4, which gives me 36 minus 4b is equal to, well, 4 times 17 is 40 plus 28, which is 68. 36 minus 68 is minus 32, which means that 4b is equal to minus 32, which means that b, well, minus 32 divided by 4 is minus 8. Let's write it out to be clear. So always make sure your examiner knows exactly what your answers are. So therefore, a is equal to 6 and b is equal to minus 8. Not a terrible question, but I suspect quite a few of you might struggle on that question. So really good question. I like that one. Next question. Okay, we're back to indices, aren't we? So solve. So I'm just going to write everything in terms of root 3. So 81 is 3 to the power 4, so that's 3 to the 4x. 9 is 3 squared, so that's going to be not 2, it's going to be 3. So that's going to be 3 to the power of 2x plus 2. And that is equal to 3 to the 1 times 3 to the half. And let's tidy this up. So 3 to the 4x, when I divide, I take away. So I'm taking away 2x and taking away 2. And that's equal to, when I multiply, I add 3 to the 3 over 2. Now, because the base values are the same, I can effectively ignore them, which means 4x minus 2x, which is obviously 2x, minus 2 is equal to 3 over 2. In other words, 2x, so 4x minus 2x, is equal to, well, 3 over 2 plus 2 is the same as 7 over 2. And therefore, x is equal to 7 over 4. Question done. Next question. Right, got a combination one. So Patricia picks a 5-digit odd number. Now I'm going to highlight this. So 5 digits, odd number. The second digit, there's a whole load of things here. The second digit is less than 5. The fourth digit is positive cube. And the first digit is prime. Wow, okay. Now, I've seen this type of question before. So basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're not picking cards with numbers on. Now we're picking any number between 1 and 0, i.e. 1 and 10, but the 10 is a 0. And then we are only using numbers that we can use, if you see what I mean. So the fact it's odd means there's 5 choices for the last digit. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. The fact the second digit is less than 5 means it can be 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So there's 5 options here. The fact the fourth digit is a positive cube. Well, the positive cubes are 1, because 1 cubed is 1. 2 cubed is 8, and there are no more single-digit positive cubes. So the fourth digit, there are 2 choices. The first digit is prime, so the prime numbers less than 10 are 2, 3, 5, and 7. So there's 4 of those. And then there are 10 choice for the middle digit because there's nothing at all about repetition or not. So I get my calculator out, multiply all these together, and I get a nice round 2,000 combinations. Good question. Next question. Come back again. The line OA has a gradient of 3. Right. The length. Oh, we had a similar question to this before, didn't we? The line OA is a gradient of 3. The length of OA is 12 root 10. Work out the coordinates of A. Right. So I'm going to say A is X. And because it's 3 times the gradient, in other words, the Y value is 3 times bigger, I know my Y value is 3X. Now, using Pythagoras, I know whatever this length is, which is X, and this height here is 3X, I know this is 12 root 10. So in other words, Pythagoras tells me that x squared plus 3x all squared is equal to, well, let's do the step in between. So the square root of that is equal to 12 root 10. Then if I square both sides, that tells me that x squared plus 9x squared is equal to 144 times 10. In other words, square of 12 is 144 and square root 10 is 10. So 10x squared, my 10's cancel, is equal to 144 times 10. Now, the reason I've left that is because I just cancel my 10's out now, which means that x squared is equal to 144, so that x equals plus minus 12. Now, I'm using a diagram here. I would say that the question is a little bit unclear here, but if we are assuming that A is in the positive, what we call the first quadrant, so I choose the positive one, which means that x is equal to 12. Now, if x equals 12, y is 3 times that, which is 36, which means my coordinates are 12 and 36. Now, if it could be any value, and this diagram is just a demonstration, it could be minus 12 and minus 36. But again, I think the question will be a bit clearer here because it's a bit unfair the way it is. Wow. We had 2 really hard days the last couple of days. Today wasn't too bad. It's definitely a bit easier. Not easy at all, but definitely a little bit easier. Let me know how it went for you. Like, subscribe. See you tomorrow.